Eric, so good to have you on the show. I think it'd be awesome just to hear. We were just mentioning the golf caddy bits in your background, but maybe just a brief intro of you, who you are for people who don't know.
Sure. My name's Eric Peschke. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Zintex Remodeling Group. We are a bathroom remodeling company that currently covers about 36 markets, and we're a jacuzzi authorized dealer, and just had a ton of growth the last couple of years, expanding into the 36 markets that we now cover. And I've been in home improvement marketing now for over 15 years. I think when I graduated college, if you would have told me that I was going to be a home improvement, marketing person, I would have told you were dreaming. But I had a lot of fun along the way. Got a chance to be a professional golf caddy for a couple of years, travel around Europe and the States, and had a lot of fun doing that. But didn't make very much money at it, so had to find a different calling. But really excited to be part of the show and happy to answer your questions.
Amazing. So I think let's just start with the fact that there aren't many companies who can say they've gone through such an incredible kind of growth trajectory. And you're doing what, 9.5 million when you kind of joined, and now you're doing what, 101 million in terms of revenue in last year. Could you tell us a bit more about that growth?
Yeah, I mean, it's the people. It's the leadership positions that we have here at Zintex that are responsible for every department. It's obviously our owner, Nick Zindell. So the family. It's a family-owned and operated business, second generation. Nick's dad, Bruce, started it back in 2001, and Nick took the helm, I believe, in 2013. And, he basically hired a bunch of people that know what they're doing, and we're able to hire a bunch of additional people underneath them on their teams that know what they're doing as well. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun to work with such high-quality people that know the ins and outs of their department.
And I think that, a lot of CEOs and CMOs would agree, everything is downstream from team. And most people will always say, we have the best people, obviously. They're not going to say anything on the contrary. But I think it would be helpful maybe to understand some specific examples on the marketing side, which you've done during that period, which maybe are unexpected, that have worked out really well to help drive that growth.
Yeah. So I think, it starts at the top. There's been two parts of marketing and home improvement that I have not done myself. I've never done canvassing, so door knocking, and I've also never done retail, but I've basically done everything else. When I started 15 years ago, I was the call center at the small family-owned and operated Renewal by Andersen dealer in Northeast Wisconsin. Like every lead call came to me. I did all the confirmation calls. So, when you start at an entry level, even though my title was marketing manager, like I learned how to do all of the different things. And then as I've progressed throughout my 15 years, I've been given more responsibility. And then you have to find people that you can teach and train and coach and motivate and mentor into, the type of staff member that you say, hey, these are the KPIs. These are what we want to be hitting. And then when they're able to do it, then you elevate them and they become responsible for basically, just replicating themselves in all of the other positions. So, at Zintex, I've been lucky in that, a number of the hires that I've been able to make, I've made where I've found people throughout my network that they're the expert at this. There's a number of things that I am not the expert at inside of the marketing department, but I've tried to be very diligent in finding the experts and then letting them own that portion of the department. We hired Katie Samaras, who 2 jobs ago used to work for Jacuzzi Corporate, and she's now working for us. And she's been a huge addition to our team. She's way better on the tech savvy side and in our tech stack, way better at active prospect, way better with our website than I am. So in some cases, it's a matter of like, I know what my strengths are. I also know what my weaknesses are. And it's being honest in yourself of like, I could try to get better at this and I'm constantly trying to learn more. Or I could find somebody that knows this like the back of their hand and make them responsible for it. And in most cases, that's the biggest win for us, is being able to find that person to where they've got some experience. They understand, this is the way that we do things at Zintex, but they also have the ability to say, hey, if we're doing it this way and this isn't working, have you tried or thought about doing it a different way? And we're very open to the fact that we don't have all the answers. And I want people on my team to be able to send those ideas, up the chain. And doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them all the time. And if I don't agree with them, I'm going to be transparent as to why, or I'll challenge them on something. But at the end of the day, the people that you have inside of your department, they're what's going to drive the department to, be the best that it can be. And I feel like we have that here at Zintex, at least in the marketing and sales and production and installation departments, as well as our RevOps team. We've got the best of the best.
And for I think a lot of people will, maybe who aren't in marketing or even who are in marketing, have a kind of clear idea or even a rough understanding of what marketing looks like at maybe your typical D2C or retail company that maybe they see on the high street or that's well known, like a Starbucks or something like that, because they see them on their TikTok, Instagram, or whatever it may be. But with something like home services, most people, that's not something that comes up in their everyday kind of space in terms of what they see. Could you tell people, what does it actually look like when you're marketing for a home services company? Because I think a lot of people will have no idea, and there are things that you do in your industry which are very, very different to other industries.
Yeah, there's a difference between, call to action marketing and branding. In home services, it can be a little bit tougher when times are tight to try to spend as much dollars that you need to on the branding side versus, I need a lead, whether it's on a cost per lead, a rev share, a cost per warm transfer, a cost per inbound phone call, whatever it is. We need a name, address, phone number that we're able to work and try to set the appointment to get our design consultant into the home to be able to provide them with a quote on their bathroom remodel. So, it's finding a marketing mix of a number of different sources, a number of different ways of being able to continue to generate leads that then our inside sales center is able to work and turn into appointments, and being able to measure those. And I never really got into like video games as a kid. I'd play, I'm old enough where I was playing Nintendo and stuff where, Mario Brothers was kind of the thing when I was growing up, and I'd played that, but this is kind of my video game. It's like the challenge every day of what lead sources are performing the best, what can we do internally to influence those and make them better. And then after a certain amount of time, it's like, okay, this lead source isn't something that I should spend as much money on, or isn't a lead source that I want to continue to spend money on at all. And then it's always having the backup sources ready to go to where I can move money throughout the month. I think one of the mistakes that's made in home improvement marketing is that people will set their budget with a lead gen partner or vendor or commit to something every month, and they just set it and forget it. And I'm constantly watching my marketing report. I get an email for every sale that comes through to let me know, oh, this source is hot. And I'm always looking at, okay, do I have the ability to move more money into that source that is working and be able to take it away from sources that might not be working? So, it's a daily, like the amount of browser windows that I have up for our CRM every day, it's always looking at reports, looking at what's turning into a set appointment, a confirmed appointment, an issued appointment. Striving for demos. That's how everybody on the marketing team is bonused, is off of a demo, meaning they own the home. All homeowners were attending the appointment. They had 60 to 90 minutes for our design consultant to take measurements, go over all the options with them, and present them a price. And if marketing is doing their job in providing quality demos, then sales is obviously doing their job of being able to close.
I think also your point, I think it still surprises me how not often marketing leaders or teams will be checking the pipeline or sales. Like you mentioned, you get an email there whenever a sale goes through. And I think that's actually quite rare in marketing. And I think now, especially with AI, where I think as a result, there's almost becoming less silos with job roles, because it's much easier for us to learn parts of skills much easier in an area which we weren't necessarily a specialist in. So actually having that relationship with sales is super, super good.
Yeah.
And could you talk us, you mentioned the different lead sources, what works for you, what doesn't, and, shifting that pool of money around. Could you talk us through the different distribution of leads and what's been working at the moment, what hasn't, and what's something which you've gone, I thought that would work, and actually it really hasn't?
Yeah, there's for us doing bathroom remodeling, it's we're very heavy in the digital space. I mean, I think that's not unique. Just the amount of leads that we, purchase from various lead gen partners of ours, that they've got a secret sauce that works where they're able to find customers that are serious about getting their project done, and typically it's on a form fill that comes through Active Prospect, hits our CRM, gets sent over to our telephony system. I mean, we're dialing them within seconds, basically. That's kind of how the business has gotten bigger. The other portion of us that's really helped us get a lot bigger is our partnership with Jacuzzi. I believe they've got the best national lead gen program out there, and they generate a lot of inbound phone calls from their TV, from their leads and calls from their website, and then they have a bunch of different lead aggregators that we have the option to be able to purchase leads from, and they charge us obviously for those, and then we work those leads representing Jacuzzi. So that's been the bulk of our opportunity when it comes to growth. I have not had success much lately or in the last 3 or 4 years with any kind of print sources. I just kind of feel like Egon Spengler and Ghostbusters, where he's like, print is dead. It just seems like not receiving as many phone calls from the tracking number anymore, not seeing a lift in our website when drops go out. I've not been able to figure out how to make that work, whether it's through direct mail, newspaper, coupon books, those type of sources that 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 5 years ago, they perform very, very well. We're just not seeing that. One of the biggest spaces that we've recently got into pretty heavily is the amount of retail locations and stores that we're in. So we've got great partnerships with the Home Depot, Costco, Sam's Club. We've got our agents in the stores, and they're basically talking to customers that are walking through and finding out if they're interested in getting a quote on their bathroom remodel. And that's been one of the divisions that I can see us, really growing in, because of the amount of markets that we cover and because of the leadership that we have with Renee Meza, who's our director of our retail division. Him and his team being out there every day, standing in a retail location, talking to strangers. That is not something that I'm the best at. And I try to make sure that I find the best, and then they run the show, and usually I'm checking in with him once a week, and it's like, what do you need from me? It's not, hey, what do I need from you? And just checking in to find out, hey, where are things at? What are you seeing? Are there certain markets that we need to really focus on? But when you find somebody that's a rock star, like Renee is, it's just kind of like, hey, just get the hell out of their way and let them do their work,
And I think, especially now with all these different AI tools, a lot of the hype or attention will typically go to the sexy businesses, and a lot of the media, people end up just talking about the open AIs or the Anthropics or a lot of tech and software businesses, where actually, if you look at so many mid-market American businesses is what, drives the economy, people are employed by, and actually is really important for America in the day-to-day, and it isn't necessarily talked about as much in terms of the hype cycles, because, like, speaking bluntly, bathrooms aren't as exciting as, whatever ChatGPT have,
Sure.
OpenAI have launched. And so sometimes I think you get a bit of a disconnect between what gets spoken about maybe in San Francisco or New York, and what's actually happening within businesses in the Midwest. Could you help us understand what you're doing internally with AI use and what's worked?
Yeah. So we've got a partner that we've worked with for this entire year that's basically helping us with AI voice, as well as AI texting. What we try to look at is out of all the agents that we have on the retail locations, they're going to capture the customer's information, and then we're going to do a phone handoff to where they're calling in. We've got it set up to where AI voice is basically able to double check, make sure that what we're looking for to be able to schedule this appointment is being given by the customer, and then let the customer know what's going to happen when we come out on the initial in-home consultation. The other way that we're using AI voice is after hours. So we've got it set up to where it's integrated with our CRM. So any phone call that comes in after our inside sales center closes is picked up by AI voice. And then they do have the ability to go through our entire script, as well as qualify the appointment and set it. based on the next available time slot that's open. So that's kind of how we're using AI on the marketing side. There's a number of other ways that we're using AI within the business to be able to, make calculations, try to, get answers faster. There's I don't want to say that there's other departments that are using it more than the marketing department is, but when it comes to like inventorying product and knowing where everything's at, AI has been a huge help for our production and installation team on that. So, I think it's something where it's the newest thing, yes, but you have to find ways that it's like this is going to make us faster, smarter, pick up on things quicker that might be going wrong, just saving time. But it's also something where you have to teach it. And I think the expectation sometimes of, okay, we're going to use this and we don't have to ever look at it. Like, I think you're setting yourself up to where there are going to be things that are wrong in it. So the time that it's saving you to use AI, partially time that you need to go through it and make sure like this does in fact line up. This is in fact correct. And if it's not correct, being able to go back through, give it an additional prompt or two, make sure it's correct then, and then going forward, you're able to save that and use that, once you know that it's correct.
I saw a meme yesterday, and it's this guy on Twitter and LinkedIn basically writing that he went out for dinner with his friend, and the waiter came over and asked him, what do you want to eat? And instead of, ordering, the guy, gets out Claude, builds an agent to go through the menu, look at the reviews, blah, 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 blah. And, by the time he answered, the waiter had left. But I think the point is that sometimes something that is simple, you don't need to use AI, and you can actually spend more time or waste time. Instead, you could just say to the waiter, you know what, this is what I want to eat. And I think knowing that balance of, great, we can use AI for this and it's going to save us time, versus why are you spending time, almost more time maybe reteaching or reprompting on stuff that is actually, that's taking you an extra 20 minutes than if you'd just done it yourself. And I think that balance is hard.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good point.
Yeah, you gotta check yourself sometimes. It's one of those where it's like, okay, I need the right answer, but I also need it quick. How am I going to be able to get that? Because there's been times where we've had meetings where it's like, okay, that number seems a little off. We need to investigate that and find out, okay, what is the real answer? Or did AI give us something that didn't pass muster? It was like, okay, this was a little bit off. But I think being able to lean into it a lot more is something that's, I always encourage everybody to do. And I have to remind myself that, every day. It's like, okay, is this something I can use AI for that's going to solve for these things? Or is it something where I do need to go through and do some manual work to try to be able to grasp what is actually going on versus just asking the computer to spit it out to me? You kind of have to be a little bit of an investigator sometimes to go like, well, is this what I was really trying to solve for? Or is it spitting back information where it just doesn't know enough yet? It needs to be taught. So I think that going into it with the right expectations is really, really important.
100%. There was a great podcast with the CPO of Netflix, and she's talking about basically one of the most important skills that will come out over the next 6 months. And I think you're already starting to see it, is systems thinking. And to your point, it's okay, within your day, whoever's day, it's actually really hard for us to go almost reimagine our day through the lens of AI, and the things and tasks we do, almost to look at it in binary, or in noughts and zeros, noughts and ones, in that sense of, okay, what am I doing and what portion do I give to AI versus I do as a human? I think that is a whole reimagining of the stuff that we do in our day, because also we like familiarity and we're comfortable with the tasks or the things that we do. And I think there's part of it where you have to get out of your comfort zone to go, actually, like, yeah, AI can do this, but then I have an extra hour to do this. How do I spend my time?
Yeah, I'm big on process and procedures and prioritization, for everybody. I mean, being able to teach everybody on our team, like, if this happens, this is a red flag priority that needs to be jumped on immediately because it impacts everybody else's work down the funnel, versus, hey, I need to go through and look at reports to try to figure out, is this source working well in half of our markets and not working well in the other half? Being able to go through and read data and be able to look at it to see, okay, what's the reason that the cost of marketing on this source in this market is off? Usually it's one of three things. It's either the sales close rate is not where we normally like it to be. It's a inside sales center conversion issue of, okay, we're getting the leads, but they're not getting set, confirmed, issued, and then run, and they're becoming demos that are good opportunities for the sales reps to close. Or it's a lead volume or lead quality or customer intent is kind of more of what I call it, on the lead source, is making sure that like, okay, are these customers interested in what we're calling them about? And what is the interest level at? Are they ready to schedule an appointment right now and take advantage of the promotion that we've got going on? Or are they just looking for ballpark pricing? And I think that one of the things that we're really using AI a lot in is we brought our website in-house. We had it built. We've got an in-house team that runs it now, and trying to make sure that we are, showing up when somebody types in something related to bathroom remodeling, and being able to position yourself to where AI is looking at your site as a source of truth. And that's one of the things, one of the missions that our internal team is working on.
And that I was, stalking your LinkedIn earlier, and obviously you've had this incredible revenue growth, but also you mentioned a couple of times that you've been able to keep marketing costs relatively or lower than, they haven't ballooned with that revenue. Could you tell us how you've been able to keep those costs down? Because I think that's probably the number one thing that all marketers will want to know.
Yeah, I think it's, there's a couple things to be able to try to, keep your cost of marketing in line. This year, as well as last year, I didn't do as good of a job as I could have done. I feel like there's ways to be able to, kind of trim the fat on it. But I think when you're in growth mode and you're launching new markets every couple months, like we have, there's the time that it takes to find out, okay, I'm going to launch these sources, what's going to work. And it's not the same thing in every market. And that's what I've learned is you've got to be really honed in on, okay, I'm launching this, but how much time am I going to give before I determine like this either works or it doesn't work? Because I could be repurposing that budget from that lead source in that market into other lead sources, into the same lead source in other markets that it is working on. So that's where the optimization process comes into play, on my end. And I probably waited too long earlier this year and last year before saying, hey, I can't spend the money continuing to hope that it's going to get better. The other thing is that in a number of our markets that we've expanded into, we've got some pretty high finance decline rates where we've got 4 or 5 different lenders that a design consultant can use to get somebody approved in the house. And we're seeing a, 30, 32, 33% finance decline rate across the board on a number of lead sources. So when you look at big things that impact your overall cost of marketing, your net close rate's one thing, but part of what influences that net close rate is your finance decline rate and then any rescissions that happen post sale. So it's isolating and looking at those where we've started working with a lead scoring agency that is helping us score the leads as they come in. And then we are purposely not calling the almost guaranteed finance declines, even though we are paying for some of those leads. But in the long run, it's working smarter. We're not putting an appointment on the calendar that is a guaranteed finance decline. It's taking up that appointment spot that we could put a better qualified appointment in. And then obviously not sending the design consultant out to the home to find out that nobody will pick up the loan. So we're trying to really work smarter rather than harder. And I think sometimes a lot of money is wasted by just like, hey, this is how it is and there's not much we can do about it. It's like, no, we don't operate that way. There is something we can do about it. We've just got to figure it out. Unfortunately, whether it's a leadership meeting with all the leaders of all departments, or it's just a separate department meeting that we have, we're fortunate that we've got a lot of smart people that even if it's not their department, they might say, hey, what about thinking about it this way? And that ends up being, something where it's like, geez, I never thought about it that way. Yeah, let's take that idea, circle the wagons within our marketing department and come up with a process or procedure that we can implement to see if it moves the needle or not. So sometimes that's the exciting part is when you get everybody together and everybody has a say and like, hey, I'm coming to you asking for help. I don't know the answer. It's exciting to try to get the team to become, all right, how do we solve for this? And I kind of go back through sometimes like, Apollo 13, the movie Apollo 13, where, we got to get the astronauts home. And they had to do so many different things that they'd never prepped for to be able to get those 3 astronauts home. And we kind of look at it like, okay, here's the problem. How do we figure out the right way to go through and solve this, and that it moves the needle in the direction we want it to be moved? And that's part of the fun of doing what we do on a daily basis, is, being able to motivate people to where it's like, hey, think outside the box. I don't care how dumb or stupid the idea might be, like, throw it out there and let's see if it's something that we can potentially work with.
100%. It reminds you of Elon Musk with SpaceX and just stripping it straight back down to first principles. The other part there you mentioned around launching in new markets, which I think is incredibly difficult. And it's one of the things which keeps coming up with our kind of customers that I speak to, where, especially now where people are getting bombarded by so much, whether it's an email newsletter, paid ad campaign, that if you aren't very personalized or targeted or know or kind of demonstrate that you have some understanding of their area or geography, it's much harder to cut through. Speaking to a CMO at a restaurant group, and their whole thing was, how do we drive footfall during the World Cup via very specific targeted campaigns for individual stores, which is incredibly difficult. And also it takes the kind of almost the boots on the ground of the knowledge of that area to then feed into the marketing campaigns. And you've obviously launched in a bunch of new markets recently. What's your approach when you launch in that new market? And you mentioned you have salespeople who are already on the ground in certain areas, but what is, from a marketing perspective, worked for you? And then also you mentioned that maybe sometimes you've waited too long. What's something which you would maybe do differently, or give advice to other marketers watching?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate in that a lot of the markets that we've launched in the last couple of years have been markets where we're going in as the authorized jacuzzi dealer. So meaning we're automatically going to be getting their national lead gen program, inbound phone calls, leads, have access to their aggregator sources. And then obviously, we've got our own individual sources that I've cultivated and my team's cultivated throughout the last 5 years, with relationships to where I can email over a list of zip codes for a new market and say, hey, how many of you are able to provide me leads in this market? And I'll know pretty much going in, like, okay, these are sources I can get leads from. So, we have the ability to turn on a number of different lead sources. I think the key is you got to make sure in our business, you got to make sure that you're turning on the leads. You have the inside sales center agents and you have the sales reps ready to be able to sell them. Because the worst thing for a marketing person is you're generating leads, but you can't set more on the calendar because you either don't have enough call center reps or you don't have enough sales reps that are available to run the appointments. And that's kind of a balance that is always challenging when you're growing. It's enough leads, enough sales reps, and trying to inch those up at the same pace. It can be challenging. There's markets, because we have 36, there's markets where I have too many leads and not enough sales reps, and then vice versa, enough sales reps and not enough leads. And we're trying to always balance those out. And that's part of the game as well. I'm fortunate that we've got a lot of in-house recruiting that goes on. Our director of operations, Kyle Etter, he oversees everything with our internal recruiters, and having those meetings where it's like, hey, I'm getting a ton of leads in this market. We need more sales reps, and they're able to jump on it. Vice versa, on the sales side, I could be getting emails or messages from the sales leadership like, hey man, we need more leads in this market or we're going to lose some reps. And that's where it's then tough for me to try to go through and figure out, like, okay, what else can I potentially turn on and spend money on those sources that are working, or test some new sources in a couple markets to try to get more lead flow in there. When you ask the question about, like, okay, what have you learned from turning on new markets? I don't want to say like, man, it's kind of, I never want to say that it's ever gotten to the point where it's easy. I mean, we've turned on so many where we've gone from, 4 markets in Texas when I started to now 36 in 12 different states. It does become easier, but looking for certain things, as far as, I think it goes back to the basics. It's like, it's being able to have a marketing report for that market and being able to look at, well, what's working, what isn't, and why isn't it working, and being able to try to isolate. Is it a sales closing percentage issue? Is it a inside sales center conversion issue? Or is it a lead volume or lead quality issue? Like, those are the 3 things that I'm constantly trying to evaluate when it comes to any particular lead source. We do some branded TV. We've obviously got our website up and running in all these markets. But I think that, one of the things that's helped us a ton be able to grow as fast as we have is just our partnership with Jacuzzi. The lead quality and the volume that they give us is something that it's a great base to be able to start from in new markets. And then as we add our sources, turn on branding campaigns, things like that, that's where we're able to then scale up and just continue to generate more leads in a market and take market share.
Mm. And you mentioned the brand campaigns there, and something like, remodeling your home isn't like going to Dunkin' Donuts, and it's not a short, easy, small purchase. It's usually a large purchase, and buyers are maybe nervous, or there's more emotional weight behind it. So, I think the question that I have for you is, how do you balance almost the short term, let's get a bunch of leads, and then also making sure that you've kind of got that branding authority in the long.
Yep. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's very challenging, especially when you see a higher cost of marketing because of the finance declines. It's like if we had finance decline rates that were back when we had the boom during COVID, I could be spending money left and right on branding right now. But you kind of have to pick your spots. You kind of have to say, like, this is a long-term branding campaign, and I know that if I'm going to start this, I know I can spend the money long-term to be able to see it through, because you might not know what it's capable of until you get 6 months down the road, 9 months, a year down the road. There's been times where I've been up against a budget crunch where I've had to make decisions on, hey, I might have to turn this off. I might have to stop this campaign, and I'll pick it back up when I can. And that's where it's challenging when you have 36 different markets and the marketing budget that I'm responsible for. Sometimes you have to make some tough decisions and then be able to live with it, or be able to go back and tell your team, hey, I made this decision and I was 100% wrong. And be in the leadership meeting that we're in and say, hey, I made this decision because I thought this, it didn't happen, or it didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I was wrong, and I got to own it and be able to learn from it and make better decisions going forward. One thing that I just thought of that goes back to your question about, like, hey, when things don't work out, or have you had some learning experiences? And here's one that actually turned into a great thing in our inside sales center, but I bring it up because it took me so long to do it that I'm like banging my head against the wall going, man, why didn't you do this like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
So I've always been a big believer of people will work based on how you pay them. So meaning, if everybody's got, whether it's a salary or an hourly amount, it's like, okay, that's set the way it is. But bonus wise, we want to make sure that we're bonusing them off of a profit generating metric. And one of the ways that we did this in our inside sales center is we were always encouraging our agents to look and try to set an appointment for same day, next day, 2 days out. Like, don't be throwing appointments 4 days, 5 days, 7 days out, because the cancellation rate's gonna go higher on it. Well, we had a structure in place where we were paying a separate dollar amount for a demo if it was the same day, next day, 2 days out. That was the same dollar amount. And then 3 days to 7 days out, because we don't let them set any further than 7 days, it was a different, smaller dollar amount. And I got together with my inside sales center directors and I said, hey, look, what if we tiered it based on every day? And I'll pay more for a same day demo than I will a next day demo, than I will a 2 day out demo, 3 day out, all the way down to 7 day out, to where now we're giving our agents the ability on a same day demo. It has to demo, but we're giving them the ability to make $50 as a tenured agent on a same day demo versus $5 on a 7 day out demo. So all of a sudden you change the pay structure, and the next thing you know, I'm looking at my set tracker report, and it's like, here's how many appointments are being set for same days.
Yeah.
Here's how many are being set for next days. And we've given our inside sales center agents the ability to make a lot more money, but it's money that I want them to have because they're generating more demos and getting our sales reps in the house faster, that then sales is closing more. So it's kicking myself going, man, how the heck did you miss this for however many years and not change this structure to where the agents that are money motivated, they're going to be filling up the board. The only thing that's quality control is making sure that they're just not throwing everything against the board for same day, next day, and hoping that it demos. We're seeing quality appointments that come out where it's like, no, these are being checked. The recordings are being listened to. We're using an AI system to be able to go through and grade the call and
Do you
make
use
sure that
do you
the
use Rilla?
expectations
Is
are
it
being
Rilla?
set.
Do you use Rilla for that?
Oh, we use Rilla on our sales side.
Oh, okay,
We
nice.
don't use Rilla on the inside sales center side.
Okay, nice. For the
Yep.
in-person stuff, you use Rilla. Interesting. Nice. And I think that to my point earlier about maybe spotlighting some of the unsexier types of businesses, what are the types of things which people wouldn't expect about home services and kind of remodeling on the marketing side, and maybe even in the business side in general, that you would go, you have no idea, my friend, about this?
Boy, that's a good question. That would have been a good question to shoot me an email or a LinkedIn message about to
I
prepare
like
because
doing the quickfire. It's
yeah,
good.
it's man, it's weird because it's like I've been in the home service industry now for, for 15 years. So, I'm sitting there like I'll go to conferences that might be outside of the home service industry and I'll be listening to the marketing conversations that are happening regarding, branding, regarding, websites, social media. We do all that, but it's like being able to try to separate yourself in the home improvement business can be difficult. The way that we've done it is it's one of our, it's one of the things that we strive for when it comes to what we're trying to achieve as a company with Zintex is we don't necessarily look at we want to be the biggest or we want to be the best. We look at it as we want to be the most trusted. I think there's an opportunity where unfortunately a lot of customers look at home services or home improvement in the same light that they might look at our congressmen and women and maybe attorneys. It's like they've all heard horror stories of they came by, they wrote up a contract, they took my check, they disappeared. They came in, they did the work wasn't done properly, and I could never get them back on the phone to come out and fix anything, So we look at it as what are the things that we need to be able to do to earn that credibility from our customers, whether it's all the reviews that we try to generate, all the pictures that we have of customers holding up the 100% happy customer Zintex signs, being able to get the amount of referrals that we get from existing customer repeats and referrals. Those are the cheapest leads you could possibly get. So how do we have a program in place where we actually use 3 different repeat and referral vendors to try to move the needle for us on those programs? We were the BBB Torch Award winner for ethics back in 2022. I remember getting the email from the BBB about, here's what you need to fill out in order to be nominated for it. And I went through and it was like 12 pages worth of stuff. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, is this going to be worth our time? Like, what are the chances of us actually winning, this award? And I was like, you know what? It's my job. This would be a great thing to have. I'm going to sit here and fill it out. And we filled it out and we ended up beating a hospital in the
God.
DFW market to win the BBB Torch Award for Ethics. And now it's something where it's a logo that we use on all of our marketing. It's on our design consultants, shirts. The logo is part of the presentation. So it's just being able to separate yourself from your competitors because of what you've earned. And then also understanding that people are going to be skeptical, understanding that, every company you look at, there's always something on social media about what they're doing for the community, things that they're involved in. We've gotten involved in the Purple Heart Foundation. We've had a partnership with them where we've committed to remodeling a certain amount of veterans' bathrooms for free every year. And then we've also gotten involved through our partnership with and relationship with Jacuzzi. We've gotten involved with the Baths for the Brave, where November 11th on Veterans Day, every one of their dealers is going to be installing free bathrooms for deserving veterans. So we look at that as a way of being able to give back to the community, but also, not just the community, but veterans that have fought and served our country. They've got whether it's a physical or a mental disability that makes it more difficult for them to bathe. So how can we take out a bathtub and put in a walk-in shower with a bench seat that's going to allow them and their family members to bathe better? And that's something that our entire company and everybody that Zintex employs can rally around. Every time we just hit a new record sales goal for the month of July. And it's like, okay, now we can do a couple more bathrooms for free for the veterans because we did this. And that's a great mentality to be able to have, that you see that, throughout the company.
I love the ethics example. I think it's a brilliant example, especially now, of doing the thing which is incredibly boring or tedious that 99% of other people won't fill out or do. and
Yeah.
it ends in a result. And just a final round of different quickfire questions. The first question is, if you could be CMO at any company of your choosing, it obviously can't be the company you're at, what company would you pick?
Ooh, CMO of any company of my choosing. I don't know if I'd ever want to be a CMO. That would,
Or
to be honest, like
CMO,
a
VP?
marketing guy.
I
Yeah.
use that title interchangeably.
They tend to have a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, pressure. I don't know if I want that.
VP, let's do VP.
Yeah, well, man, that's a good question. I think I would probably want to get involved with something related to golf. I mean, whether it's the something involved in PGA Tour type marketing, something related to my love of golf would be really cool. I got a chance to do an internship at the Golf Channel when I was in college between my junior and senior year, and that was a lot of fun. They were kind enough to offer me a production assistant job
Well, you
coming out
clearly
of
did something
graduation,
right.
but I didn't want to wait tables as a
Okay.
second job to be able to make ends meet. So here I am. But yeah, probably something getting involved with golf and with marketing. That would be a lot of fun.
Amazing. And what was the last thing that you typed into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any assistant of your choice?
The last thing that I typed in was every week I get the jacuzzi invoices for all of their leads, and I go through and I track it by market, and then I load the markets into Claude and ask them to add up what did I spend in each market and what was the total, and it spits it out very, very quickly and correctly. So that's just one of those ways that it's allowed me to save time versus having to go through and manually enter it or enter it through spreadsheets or anything like that. That's made a difference in my time.
Very clever. And in terms of the home services industry, what's your hot take about the industry at the moment?
Yeah, I think the industry at the moment right now, I think that if you're growing during this, economic challenging times of, finding customers that can afford or have the ability to qualify for financing, I think there's something to be said for that. It's been a challenge. I think that this is where having the right people in the leadership roles, but also having people that are accepting of the challenge is really key, is understanding that it's like, hey, look, this isn't going to be easy all the time. I go back to one of the quotes from the movie with Tom Hanks, A League of Their Own, where he's the manager, and Dottie basically tells him, like, it just got too hard. And he says, it's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. And I think having that mentality of just like, yeah, it's gonna be hard, but it's also something where when you have a record month like we had in July, you celebrate it a little bit more. It wasn't easy, and we're proud of what we did and the changes that we made in prior months that allowed us to have that success in the month of July. And then it's just a matter of keeping the momentum going. And sometimes that can be the challenge, is just trying to keep that positivity and that momentum going all the time, with your teams, where they're like, hey, we're just hearing the same thing over and over again. And it's like, okay, I'm going to find another challenge, and this is the thing. I don't want you to lose focus of these things, but we need to solve for this. And how do we get better at this? So yeah, I think it goes back to, hiring the right people, being able to bring on the right people that have the right mentality, that are like, hey, we're go-getters. We're going to figure this out. And then we're going to celebrate and enjoy it when we have a good month. But then it's right back on to trying to break that record month the next month.
And final two questions. The first being, in terms of over the next 6 months, is there a specific marketing channel or campaign that you're going to try that you haven't tried yet, or a new experiment that you're running?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a number of lead gen vendors that have reached out to me on LinkedIn, they're probably getting sick of emailing me and getting the same answer, where budget wise, it's going to be tough for me to try to launch anything new between now and the end of the year. I think that we're in the position right now where we're almost looking at it sometimes as less is more. If we have the right mix of sources that are producing the right results, then we need to stick with it. It's not that I'm not doing the phone calls to find out what I don't know from sources and having some ready to go if I need them, but it's also something where there are right times and wrong times to try to push the envelope and stretch it, and you have to know when those are. And in the case of, we start getting into, mid-November through the new year, that's the time of year where it's like we don't try to push it and spend more money because we're fighting that holiday time frame. They're spending their money on retail. So we try to look at the year as, hey, we got to get while the getting's good before we go into this time of year where we do tend to purposely cut our budgets down and have lower sales goals. But then once we get past the new year, we're right back up to ramping everything back up. So I'm hoping that there will be time in the spring where my budgets will allow me to then go out and test some additional sources.
I always find it fascinating, because in each company you have your own cyclical season in some sense of when your buyers come out, and just find it fascinating the variety of some people who are selling tires, some people who are doing remodeling, and that spectrum of when people buy. It's really interesting. And final question is, who do you know that I should interview next?
In the home improvement space, I would look at, and I can certainly make the intro to interview Jay Shah. He is my position at Bath Experts. He's definitely worth talking to. He's got a lot of insights. I think it would be a good interview to talk to Senya Spellman. She's the CEO of Sisu Synergy. She's a marketing consultant in the home improvement space. She'd be a great interview. Amy Zimmerman is somebody that Senya works with a ton and actually worked for. But I look at Amy as somebody as like, man, I would love to be regarded one day at Amy's level, just because she is the end all be all when it comes to home improvement, marketing. There's not one thing that she doesn't know or hasn't done or tried. But yeah, there's definitely a bunch of candidates out there that would be great, great interviews that would be able to provide, substance, concepts. I hate going to a conference and they put somebody up on stage where all they do is talk about how great they are and their company is, but I don't have any notes.
100%.
It's like, give me something I can take back and try to work with. So that's kind of how I try to approach anytime I'm, fortunate enough to be on a podcast or asked to speak is, hey, what's something that I can provide to the audience, or multiple things that I can give that is something they can take back and implement. And it's not like I'm giving away company secret sauce stuff, but it's more just, hey, here's a concept that works for me. Take it back to your business. See if it's something that might work for you.
Amazing. Well, thank you for those recommendations. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Eric. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot. No, I appreciate being on.